so that I can actually.
We could let it sit for like 90 seconds, couple minutes for people to join in.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. Oh, do you have the chat or the stream open? Well, I
I do.
assume you'd have to. Because it, that I don't know how else you would follow what I'm doing.
Yeah, that would be pretty hard.
Yeah,
Wouldn't it?
could you just like type something in chat? I just want to make sure that I have this working quickly. While I get my my course file open. I think I have my phone set up so I can see the chat, but I'm not 100% positive.
Full House Rock.
Yeah, I just figured, I'm like, oh, it's an island, then it's kind of a tutorial thing, and that name popped in my head, and it was like, oh, that's too perfect. I can't not name it that. All right. Let's see. All right, perfect. All right, so I am all up and running. So I'm ready whenever you are. Assuming, of course, the delay's not worse than I thought it is, and it's not up yet on stream. Are you still there? All right, well, we might have a slight issue here. Alrighty then. Let's see here. I'll give Matt a quick message just to make sure that he can still hear me.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
you're
glad
back.
I'm glad the internet hit a brick at the beginning.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just glad it's not my internet doing that. So
Oh, yeah.
I've had a couple evenings where it'll just randomly drop everything every couple minutes. So I'm sure that'll happen one of these episodes.
I will say that with the snowstorm that we have going, uh, uh, so we got 6 inches of snow last night, and it's probably blowing a solid 50 out there right now.
That's impressive. Hey
Uh,
everybody in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. We're only having some mild technical difficulties.
Mild.
Yes. Also, I finally got the stream up on my phone, and I can't see the chat for some reason. That's helpful.
Isn't the chat the only thing you need on your phone? So it's
Yes.
completely defeating the purpose.
Yes, exactly. Oh, there we go. I got it. Perfect. Uh, I am. Can everybody hear me?
Can everyone hear me? I need to reconnect. Can they not hear me?
I don't know. I mean, I can hear you, so I'll just type something in the chat. We'll see. All right, I think we're good then.
All right.
Well, I think my drop frames are like 30%, so it's not necessarily going to be like smooth, but it shouldn't be like a total slideshow either. So whatever. We're just going to charge right ahead. Anyways, so yeah, as you can see, I've got my first hole laid out, and I don't usually route stuff before I usually just throw at least one hole down before I bother to route everything. Not always, but most of the time. Just because I want to test it out before I invest a lot of time in getting the routing right. And I already have kind of a spot planned out for 18, vaguely.
All right, show me that.
All right, so I can't remember if I wanted to do a long par 4 or a par 5, but at the very least, they wouldn't be too far apart from each other. So I'll just somewhere around here. This little like right on the coast, kind of curling back into number 1, because that has some of the. Or no, actually, I take that back. I wanted to move it slightly back from that. But other than that, I only picked that spot because, it looks nice, and B, I always like to kind of route my 18th hole and my first hole in approximately the same direction, so that you can get that nice lighting on all of them. You always want to start and end on a good note. So, especially if you have low lighting, you want your first and last holes to be approximately in that kind of, mood lighting direction, however you want to call it.
So,
all right.
Do you want to introduce?
Yes, sorry. This is episode 2 of The Joy of Planting with my special guest, also Matt, aka Mr. Vinegar. Yes, we started off backwards of, hey, is this thing working? And then we went for about 5 minutes before we actually introduced anybody. So yeah. You were gonna say something, and then I interrupted you.
So, the basics that I want to start with is essentially where you were going.
Mm-hmm.
Start with a starting point. Figure out where you think your course needs to start and finish. In essence, you should figure out where the 9th green, 18th green, 1st tee, and 10th tee are going to be. I have the 9th return. So obviously you can kind of throw part of that out the window.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that is good advice, with the one exception of if you're planning to do an out and back course and not have your 9th hole come back to the tee. But most people don't tend to do those either, so that's kind of a niche thing for the most part.
Correct. I will say, 18 should finish where you start.
Yes, that is a good rule of thumb.
So you still have to figure out how you're going to work your way back.
Yes. Basically, the only difference is you're working your way back once instead of twice.
Correct. So, in getting a good routing,
yes,
is you actually don't worry about the routing at all.
Mm-hmm.
I not thinking so much about how the holes are gonna themselves. I want you knowing that you have to go from point A back A.
I think you're kind of intermittently cutting out a little bit.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, always exciting.
So start looking for the best green sites between what you have for hole 1,
mm-hmm.
property, and connecting back where you want your 18th.
Yeah. So, and I can definitely see here over on the other side of number 1 that there's a great spot here for, say, like a downhill par 3. Like, Pebble Beach 7th style. Somewhere in that vein. I think I kind of see a good one here.
You could do that. So, okay, so what I want you to do is forget about making a golf hole.
Mm-hmm.
Your measure tool and just draw an X where you see a green just perfectly fitting.
All right. There's a good one. All right.
Right.
Eh,
So,
I think I see one
okay.
kind of here-ish.
Okay.
That's a decent spot for one. Let's see here.
Going. I want you to draw at least 20.
All right. I think there's a solid one
Okay.
here. This could be a decent one. This one is definitely one. I might mark that as a star because that's a good one.
Mhm.
Let's see here.
Going.
I think this is a good one, maybe. It's just I'm so used to seeing things as holes and not as green sites that this is a little challenging. I think.
Well, I'm sure it is a weird change of pace.
Oh yeah. This looks like a good green spot. I should
Going.
start looking for stuff. Probably getting closer to the that could work.
Start marching your way kind of over the hill back towards where you want
Like
18
one
to be.
here or here, something like that. And I'm trying to get a good kind of multi-angle view of them. This could work. I like the idea of either a T or a green being up on this ridge here.
Okay.
Actually, this could be a good par 3 spot. I'm just going to mark
Mm.
that kind of general direction because, like, oh, that could be a good hole. This is definitely a green spot. I have to find one close to 1T. None of them are jumping out at me in this little valley here. Though that's definitely where
You
I would
kind
want.
of put yourself in a pickle.
I can always adjust the land
Um,
though, because the sculpting here is very rough. Or I could just completely abandon the idea of um, working back to 1 immediately, because I already have 18 there. I could just make this an out and back.
Good. Completely up to you.
All right. Also, hey Kent, how's it going? And Eric. So yeah, since I can revisit that idea. Actually, I think I see a potentially decent green site there. I would definitely have to work it a bit, but it's an option for if I decide to make this a 9-hole loop or an out and back.
Right. Let's just work with what you have. So
Yes. So I've got probably one, two,
using
three, four,
all
five, six,
those
seven.
X's,
Yes.
basically play connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
But you're probably going to end up not using every dot.
Yes. Most definitely.
Rule number 1 of connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
Make a 90-degree turn.
Is it like a dog leg?
Correct. If you can avoid it, I get it. There are some times where appropriate or you have to do it or et cetera, et cetera. The 13 at Augusta National, anyone would say that was a bad idea. The hole turns about 90 degrees over the course of it. It might even turn more like 100 degrees.
Yeah. I was gonna say angles, in my opinion, are almost always a good thing until you start hitting like maybe 60 to 75 degrees of dog leg, and then it starts becoming hit or miss. You can have
My
great
rule
holes
of
that,
thumb is 70 is usually the breaking point.
yeah, like you can still have good holes that dog leg more than that, but it starts getting hit or miss. And past
Extremely hit or miss.
90, that's generally just a terrible idea.
Correct.
Like if your hole's doubling back on itself, I think I've seen one or two of those that play interesting and aren't crap, but they're kind of few
Yeah,
and far between, and they're always going to be quirky.
absolutely. I always turn to 13 at Augusta because that is like the epitome of works for what it is.
All
When
right,
in doubt, try not to.
exactly.
Oh, yeah. Now start playing connect the dots.
All right, so this green site is dead because I think that's a good landing spot for a hole. I kind of see one playing along the coast, and then you have to turn and play like an uphill wedge shot into this par four.
Perfect.
That's a decent.
Okay, so that one's dead, and you're using that one.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, now we've got.
Now
All right.
connect it to another one.
So this one out here, I am definitely using. Now, I kind of want to make my approach shot longer. At the very least, well, it's downhill 40 yards, so I can make that a longish approach shot. That's somewhere around there. And then probably work the tee shot up, maybe out. Well, that's a bit far. Maybe about here is okay. And
Yeah,
you'll play over the green a little
don't.
bit.
I don't want you to think about what the par is going to be, what the yardage is going to be. Connecting the dots,
That is fair.
and whatever it gives you is the hole that it's going to be.
That being said, I think all of my green sites are so close together that they would all end up being par threes if I left them as is.
That's fine. We can avoid most of those.
All right, I kind of
Um,
want to go out here. We're gonna have a little short uphill one, and then I guess I probably can't use that one. I can use this little bowl thing here. Trace my way back. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need 3 more. Kind of end up around there. I guess I'm gonna go back toward the sun again. Let's see. I have 3, or I could do 3 par threes on this 9, because
exactly.
yeah.
That's when you can get
Ooh,
those funky
scratch that. We're making this a drivable
lines.
par 4. This is
When
good.
that's when you get those fun,
Mhm.
funky. It's because you're not thinking of it so much as like the 2 par 3s, 2 par 5s, 7 par 4s. You're just simply thinking, I'm gonna make the best holes I can with what
Yeah, I definitely
the par
agree
is.
with that school
Whatever the
of
par is gonna be, it's gonna be.
I definitely agree with that school of thought. The exception being that, um, yeah, or just as a general rule of thumb, don't let uh, kind of your preconceived notions of how a course should play get in the way of finding the best holes on your property.
At what did you just do?
Hmm.
Did you just make?
I actually haven't. I made this. The last hole I actually made was this kind of 90-degree-ish hole. It goes around this other one. This one might be a little awkward. I might have to
Okay.
revise that one. This one I had already marked earlier. I'm not doing anything with that.
What was rule number one?
Uh, don't think about golf holes.
Okay, that actually was rule number one. What was rule number two?
I do not remember what rule number 2 was.
Don't make 90-degree angles.
Oh yeah, that's right. All right.
Oh, go back to that hole.
Yes.
Keeping your fairway
Find another green spot. Yeah.
in another green spot.
Out here. That's perfect.
And then
Yeah, that works.
hole that's coming back to that. Or maybe you just need to not end up using that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's fine. Now the question is, I've got 8. So do I want to try and work my way back to 1, or just say screw it and then just keep filling up the island and come back on 18?
Uh, so you have two options, right? So you
Hmm.
could return it after 11,
That is true.
where it ends up being, or you could just never return until 18.
I'm kind of leaning that way. Because I'm seeing
That
this
totally works
really,
too.
really great par 3 here on this ridge that I absolutely want that hole in my routing.
Right.
But it doesn't make sense. It'll, like it would take me at least one more hole to get to that and then another one to get back. So getting back after 11, at that point I might as well just make it an out and back.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So we can just
And
completely turn around and just fill the island again.
so so rules are meant to be broken. And for the 90-degree rule, I mentioned like 13 at Augusta.
Yes.
To break the first rule, don't think about golf holes.
Mm-hmm.
If you do end up finding a golf hole that is so perfect, incorporate.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you can break rule number one. You
But
can make it so you come back to that.
yeah, cause so
Alright.
it's funny. I sort of design stuff in a similar way, but my emphasis is always on finding the best golf holes out on the property versus finding the best green spots and then connecting them.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
guess I'm combining step 1 and step 2 mentally when I'm looking for stuff.
that's true. No, and
And then I work around that because you're going to have a
wrong.
lot of land that isn't interesting in and of itself. So then you can kind of fit holes to make your routing make sense. Like you find the holes that are already there and like, oh, this is a great long par 3 or this is a great short par 4 or like a risk reward par 5, etc. But you still have to have a balance of holes otherwise. So to me, it's the bland parts of the plot. Then you start filling in with, okay, what does this course need to give it to round it out a little bit. So anyway, so I think we're at 1, 2, 3. Actually, here I'm just gonna start throwing holes down so that I can keep track of what we've done so far. Because
Totally cool.
because I think I want. I'm happy with the routing we have for the first several.
Um, Additionally,
Yes.
I can't really say I. You architects focus on the green sites is because basic principles is if you have an interesting green site,
The hole will be interesting.
hole will be interesting.
If your greens suck, then the hole's gonna suck.
Not necessarily.
As a rule of
You
thumb.
can have a good golf hole. Can have a good golf hole if the green's uninteresting. But if you have an interesting green site and a good interesting green complex, a good hole in itself.
Mm-hmm. All right, and here we're kind of hitting like what to me is a slight problem in the routing, in that,
Go ahead.
well, because there are absolutely no par 5s on this course yet. So I'm
I'm
kind
going
of
to tell
thinking
you,
that
there is nothing wrong with that yet.
yes, but I feel like now that we're at 9, I kind of want to look for a par 5.
Okay. So from 8,
Mm-hmm.
looking for green sites that are just further away.
Exactly.
Because part of the problem is you found all those green sites really close together.
Yes. Yeah, granted, I wasn't necessarily going to use all of them. I was just trying to get as many as I could find, as dense as I could. So yeah, so rule of thumb for next time I attempt this is don't look so close, or don't look for the same density of green sites. Just spread them out and then connect. Just find all of the best ones versus
But
all of the possible ones.
once you get a really good layout going,
Hmm.
I'll the kind of check yourself step
Yes.
this.
I like this as a green site. We'll play with that one. That could get dicey, but we can play with the distance on that. So that would be 11. Yeah, it's 8, 9, or sorry, that's 10. Then I probably want to route back.
Probably want to start working your way back.
Exactly.
And can I suggest something?
By all means.
So what's going to end up happening is your green that you or 18th hole that you originally made
Mm-hmm.
is probably not going to end up working.
Yes.
Go to your really cool par 3 real quick.
Yes.
If you want to incorporate that,
Mm-hmm.
good. Hey, Mayday.
Hey man, how's it going?
I also think the green site that's kind of down in the valley next to it,
Mm-hmm.
I think that should probably be your 18. And the routing's going to work, so you probably play one hole down and then one hole back to there, and that's probably going to be your 18th green.
Possible. I'm also thinking I can. Let's see. Like if I had a tee set off to the side on that par 3, I could over the course of 1 or 2 holes run out to where my 18th is starting, and run those kind of down the mountain into the seaside. Because I think there's some like this patch out here by 1 is kind of iffy golf land in my opinion. Like the slope that's there is too severe. I would have to like I could make it work, but it would take a lot of it's not naturally going to be good. You would have to force something in there.
Right. What I'm seeing,
I'm almost seeing something out here.
because you with where your clubhouse is going to be and figuring out where 1 and 18 is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
like envisioning your 18th hole and your first hole before you start routing
Yeah.
isn't a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Because to me, it's like that's the emphasis is always going to be on those 2 holes. I want both
Absolutely.
of those
You
holes.
always want to end on a good note and start on a good note.
Exactly. I could do like a long par 3 for 17. I'm thinking over the like with the cliffside thing, and then come back have maybe a par 5 because we're kind of short on those. So I can stretch this to a par 5 versus a long par 4.
I think you just make it a par 5 by playing up to that green.
Oh, the one that I marked over to the left there?
Yes.
Actually, yeah, that's a better hole. Yeah, I'll work the distance out there later, but that's kind of a general gist. So that goes 18, 17, 16, 15, and we have 9 and 10. So that means we have 11, 12, 13, and 14 left.
Right. You have 4 holes to get from down there
Mm-hmm.
up here.
And probably try to use as much as of the good, interesting like points of interest on this side of the island.
Yes.
Or keep the routing a little compact and throw some kind of eye candy off to the side.
That is also an option.
Because for the most part, it's been relatively compact.
Correct. Really, the only thing that made it not compact is that big mound between 1 and 3.
Yeah. That big mountain.
Yep.
I could probably throw another one. I'm thinking like I could make this whole area over here like a big mount or not a big mountain, but the high point. So there's a little bit of visual interest to the stuff that's not looking at the ocean.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
So in which case, then that closes off a lot of that excess land, and that makes routing a little simpler.
Yep.
All right. So I might work my way backwards from here. So looking around
So
here, I think this is my best
so
green site.
find like yeah, first start by finding a good green site near that where you want that tee box on the par three to be.
Hmm. Yep.
And like 6 or 7 green sites in between that,
Hmm.
start going backwards.
Here's a potential one. Let's see. This could be one. Yeah, I know they're all very close together, but I'm just looking at.
That's totally okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna show you a little something.
There we go. And there. Let's see. This could be interesting. Actually, this one I think might be the best one. So, all right. So there's 6-ish. All right.
Okay.
Let's see.
Again, you're gonna connect the dots, but
I
try and connect the dots 2 different ways.
gotcha. Um.
You need to give yourself 2 different sets of holes using the exact same green sites because in your mind, that is as best as it can get.
Yeah. All right. So let's see here. I might have to. I might lay some holes down on the stuff that I know I want because my lines are starting to get messy and I want to clear them out.
Yeah, you could definitely
All right.
lay some holes down and then
And then just reorder them.
some
Yeah.
markers.
I'll
Trust me.
generally do that when I'm doing stuff of like I'll know points of interest that I want holes, and then that's gonna be a monster par five. We can tweak that. 670 yards.
Yeah, you could tweak that.
Uh, yes, and then kind of a long par three here. I think that one also needs to be tweaked slightly, but all right. Now what was here's 9. I think around here. That one, yeah, par 5 of sorts. Then, yeah, I don't really like that hole, so we're just going to scrap that one.
Totally cool.
Okay, so I've got first 9, probably about 15th, and then 17 and 18. All right, so, I thought I had a decent 16th, but whatever. We can go look for another 16th.
You try and find it again.
Exactly. Let's see. Where would be the best green site here? Probably about here. And then that's probably a good tee site. And big fairway there. I think this one will be kind of a harder dog leg, but we'll see. Like I'm envisioning something that kind of plays along this little area here and has a nice like wide open but with a kind of reverse camber to it.
Sure.
That could be interesting.
Oh, that's probably only about 60 probably only about 60 70 degrees. So I would argue that is within the limits of being okay.
Yes. All right. So now we're right back to I need 10 through 14. Okay then. Actually, I have all this seaside that I'm not using. So let's go look for some holes. Because it's an island. I have infinite amounts of coast. And I've only used it on 1, 2, 3, kind of 4-ish holes so far. Well, 6 if you include the last 2. But, alright. So I start here. Let's see, where would I want to put greens out in the ocean-ish? Here's probably a decent one. In which case, come back this way. I'll just start it here. So yes, I also tend to like looking for tee sites as well, because I want my greens and my tees to be at local high points, generally. Because if your tee is already kind of at a little local high point, then you can already see everything around your hole.
Sure. I'll give you T sites as soon as you get done routing.
You'll give what? I missed
Give
it.
I'll give my opinion on T sites as soon as you're done
Gotcha.
routing, or unless you just want to stop what you're doing now and we can. It's up to you.
No worries. I've only got a couple holes left, so I can. Let's see. Where do I want to put a T site? About here. That would bring me to 12. So I need 13 and 14. I like that one. Alright. About there. And this one's definitely a green spot. There we go.
All right.
So that would be a preliminary routing. I think that has 18 holes in it. Yeah, so anyway, you can, well, I'll just reorder these holes quickly. And so
Sure.
you can go ahead and talk about your thoughts on tee boxes and stuff.
Okay. So with tee boxes, what
I think it's
I'm trying to figure out how to word it.
oh, okay. So it's not your mic cutting out. Awesome.
No.
No worries.
When in doubt, a box next to the green.
Yes.
And I say that because in real life,
You want to be able to
you
walk.
always start the next hole with time. And as cart golf courses are, I'm going to be completely honest, as much as D-Dog doesn't want to hear that.
Mhm.
It's becoming more and more important that your tee boxes are right next to your last green. That is where your hole is going to start.
All
Again,
right.
you're not even thinking about what the hole's going to turn out to be. You're not thinking if it's going to be a par 3, par 4, par 5 next, how long it's going to be.
All right. So slight problem. I miscounted and I'm a hole short.
Okay, so what I'd suggest is probably take out what number that's going to be, but it's 16 right now. Take that out.
Let's see. I like that green site though. So I just need to work a new T site and then connect the dots.
I would go out to the ocean, like away from the other holes, and then come back to that green site to try and keep it.
Gotcha. That's what I was thinking. So this one here I can completely trash, and we're gonna go back out toward the ocean. So that it takes another. What am I doing? I cleared all my distance markers. I want to go delete this hole.
So Energizer, to answer your question, you almost always want to start with where area is going to be, where your first tee and where your 18th greens are going to be. Once you get that set, I personally route from there. I don't start laying in a golf hole. I know some people who put in their 1 in 18 and then go from there. I wrong with that.
figure out the specifics of how that hole lays out later. So that is 10, 11, 12. So I got 2 holes left. This is going to be an interesting piece of land, but I think I can work it. This is one of those where I have to traverse this area somehow, but it's not the best golf land necessarily.
Yeah, you kind of gave yourself a really steep plot.
That's okay. I can smooth that out later.
Exactly.
The perks of being God, in terms of design here, is that I have complete control over this entire piece of land.
Sure.
I could make it entirely flat.
Good.
Something like that'll work. But yes, I try to design a plot that's interesting and then and leave it as much as possible. But when all else fails, you can just flatten it and brute force it. It's not ideal, but it's an option.
And what I would say to that is if I was...
Damn it, did I miscount again? I think I did. Alright, so...
I think you had it counted correctly the first time, and then you thought you miscounted.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I just missed a layout somewhere. Alright, so, new challenge. I'm going to stretch these holes out and get all the way across in 2. So let's see. This is going to be a lot.
Back par 5s, here we come.
Yes, all the back 9 par 5s. Of course,
I think you only have 3, don't you?
Par 5s? I have absolutely no idea. I have not.
The thing. That's the correct answer. You should know until you lay them in, and then you click over to see your scorecard.
There.
Of what you have.
All right.
And then you can adjust from there.
All right. 3 par 3s? I thought I had way more. Oh, I haven't done any on the backside. No, I take that back. I have this one, but the current length is too long and it thinks it's a par 4. So, yeah. But anyways.
My suggestion would be just shorten.
Yeah, I just move the tee
up
box
quite a bit and bring that whole 18th tee and everything back on top of the hill and forget about worrying about resculpting that whole piece of land.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, I'm gonna move this green site back. Whoops! I gotta move both waypoints. There we go. And then
I would hope you could mix those up, Energizer. If you have 6 par 3, 6 par 4s, and 6 par 5s on a golf course, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what golf hole, the best green sites say your course needs to be.
I would argue that simply connecting all of the best green sites doesn't necessarily make the best course, because your course still has to kind of ebb and flow in a way that makes sense. It doesn't have to be traditional or
right, which is why when you draw all those X's for the green sites,
mm-hmm.
you can fill your plot with, and then you go and find like 8 different ways you can connect the dots to your best course out of that.
All right, so I think
for time's sake, I only had you do 1 set of those.
Yes. Let's see. So what it looks like right now, we go kind of short mid-length opening par 4, then shortish par 3, then another short par 4, kind of a little uphill shot that could be kind of tricky. Then I think this is also going to be a 4. It's just a long par 4.
Right.
And then 5 5 is another short par 3.
Uh-huh.
Then a mid-length par 4.
Uh-huh.
Followed by drivable par 4. And then another mid-length par 4. That's a lot of 4s in a row. But that's okay. That's only 3. That's not too bad.
Three is nothing.
Yeah, and one of them's kind of a short drivable one, so they definitely have different feels to them. Then first par 5, and then another mid-length par 4. All right, well, we're kind of running a little short on time, so I don't need to go tinker with it yet. I can do that off camera.
Yeah, you can tinker off camera, and if you need another par 3, you could probably shorten what's marked as 14 right now, and bring it down to more closer to that green side.
Yeah, like I think at this point, it's like I have a general idea of how all of the holes would be routed and the what land they take up. If I needed to adjust like the playing difficulty, or in this case like change the par of the hole, I would start kind of massaging where I put my tee boxes. All right. Reeb asks how many folks lay out their routing ahead of time. So typically I always like to throw a hole down on an empty plot without doing any prelim work, just to kind of throw ideas down. Like that's just part of my creative process. But once I do that and I have a hole that I like, then I basically go and immediately come up with at least a very rough routing for 18. It usually changes slightly as I go, but at least that way I have a general idea of where I'm going, and all of the holes have their own unique spaces. I'm not going to accidentally design myself into a corner or like curl back around and I'm stuck in the middle of all of my other holes trying to figure out how do I cram a hole in here and then find a path out of here. Or,
and that's why I always suggest getting your 18 holes in first, because if you cram yourself into your corner,
then you're just
really
done.
Bad hole or a 90-degree dogleg or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's nobody to blame but yourself.
Exactly. I am a huge proponent of, it doesn't have to be the first thing you do, but before you really like break a lot of ground and get started in earnest, you should have a rough idea of where all 18 of your holes are going to be.
Absolutely. And what you have now should not be like completely set in stone what you're going to go 100% with.
Oh yeah, I almost always tweak it slightly. At the very least, like, I'll adjust the par of a hole. I'll come back later and decide.
I want people to know I route a course like you just did.
Hello? Still there? I think we might be having internet issues again. Awesome. That's okay. All things considered, we've done pretty good considering we were expecting to have all sorts of internet issues for the entire evening. Yeah, I'm with Reeb at...
All right. My internet it died for about 30 seconds there.
No worries.
I tinker with it for a day, and I save and quit. Yeah. I come back the next day. I tinker with it for an hour. I probably do this about 8 times over the course of a week or two. We start building the course, because my brain the next day will catch something like, oh, this could be better.
Oh yeah, like I definitely will. When I'm routing something, it's just a very rough sketch, and concepts and things will change as I start designing stuff. Yeah, so it's like you want to be able to take a fresh look at it at least a couple of times and reevaluate of, hey, is this the best hole for this spot, or is there like a a slightly different routing that's better. Of like, oh hey, I could stretch this hole out, and then this kind of like average clunky hole becomes like a much shorter or longer hole that becomes much better.
That happens fairly often.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that will happen is as you're tweaking the routing, you'll find a green site. You're like, okay, well, I have to incorporate this in somehow now.
Exactly.
And so I could tear up 3 or 4 holes, redo, and get that green site in. Eyes and your brain will pick up something you didn't see before last week as you continuously tweak on a plot.
Yes.
That's why I almost always have 2, 3 courses going. Actually be in the process of building, and the other one is in the pre-planning stage of tweaking the routing.
Oh yeah. I always have a couple going as well, but partially because one is I'm always hitting the planting part where the course itself is basically done and I'm just polishing and putting all the planting details down. And that's just tedious as hell, and I want to be able to like throw some ideas down on something else occasionally. So I just have to have a second project going. But yeah, I would suggest you don't. I think people get kind of caught up in the idea of like, well, I'm going to start this course and I'm going to work on only this course until it is done, and then I start a new course. And that's just, to me, you need to let your ideas like kind of gestate a little bit. Like you don't need to be in a hurry, and sometimes you'll have like a creative frenzy where you have a very clear vision, and or it's like, I know exactly what I want to do with like these 7 holes on this course, and then you'll kind of run out of ideas, and you'll be kind of, if you wanted to work on it, you'd be forcing a little bit. In which case, I say, well, then set it down and work on something else. Like, unless you're hitting the edge of a contest deadline, there's no reason that you need to force yourself to make creative decisions that you're not feeling. All right. Well, since normally I am perfectly fine running all the way to 9, but I might wrap this one up slightly early because I'm actually teaming up with Jeremy on the Goat Ranch here in about 10 minutes. So I should give myself a couple minutes to sync up with those guys and get prepped.
I think the wind is gonna kill my internet here in a second because it's lapsing hard.
No worries. So, in which case, do you have any closing thoughts, things that you wanted to share with the with intrepid designers, or things that you think people should know or think about?
I would say, again, try not to think of the holes themselves. The whole design will come, and that's after your pre-planning routing stage. Hole is incorporated with the building of it. It's the build stage. And you can let your mind go wild of, all right, so if that's the best green site, and this then I can make something work here. And let the land dictate some of what you're designing there, but whatever you want, really.
Yep. And I would agree with that. Like, let the land dictate, or again, it depends on how you start.
Give you ideas of what to do.
Yeah, like all of the best holes on the courses that I've created, I generally just kind of found sitting there already.
Correct.
So I mean, and not everybody sees stuff that way. So it's kind of an acquired skill. It's definitely something worth practicing to see if you can kind of find spots where greens or holes would already fit. But that's not
And
the only way to design a course. I just think it's definitely a great tool to have in your tool bag. The ability to just kind of like, oh, there's already a hole here, and this is way better than whatever I would have come up with.
I would definitely say you can acquire that skill.
Yeah, it just takes
I'm
practice.
definitely I'm very left brain,
Hmm.
very artistic person, but you can start to envision what a good golf hole should be.
Yep. Well,
Artistic ability to learn that skill. I will never be a very good planter or side stuff look very good because I'm not artistic. That is art. That is an artistic skill. But laying and designing a good golf hole, you can learn from studying other golf holes, reading anything about golf course architecture, just looking at what if a hole makes in the game and you're like, ooh, that was good. Study it. Figure out why you enjoyed that. And incorporate those concepts in. You can learn that skill even if you're as left brain as I am.
all right. I think on that note, it's time to cut it off. But thank you
Yes,
very much for stopping by. This has been great. Thanks for coming on the show.
absolutely.
And thanks everybody for watching. Hopefully we'll see you all again in the next episode. Have a good night.
Night.
All right. And